Hey guys, I wanted to show you, I like to have scrunchies that will loop. I can like loop them over my hair more than once. So I made this one out of my little sewing notion fabric. And then I have this one that, as you can tell, I have worn it to death since I made these, which was, my gosh, maybe 2 weeks ago. This one is my, I don't know why, but I like it. It's thinner. The fabric is thinner. It's 2 inches. And I think I cut this to 3 total. So this was 1.5 inches wide. But I do wear this one in my hair all the time. When I need to, I'll wash it and probably press it. It looks like it could be pressed. But in any case, I wanted to show you something. This is the elastic. I'm probably getting way ahead of myself. This piece of elastic right here came out of the fitted sheet that I bought that I'm going to be using to make table linens with. And you will see that in the last part of this video that I'm working on. But this is what was holding the whole edge of the fitted sheet down, into that elasticized arrangement, we'll say. But I wanted to use this for something, and there's a scrunchie that I want to make using some scraps that I have. I was using this fabric right here to cut my bias strips with. Another video, by the way, for the neckline of my jumper. Another video, which will be coming up soon. But I have these odd angled pieces of fabric, and I'm going to stitch these together and make a piece of fabric from which I will make a scrunchie a different way than the way I just demoed, since I kind of lost the video or the opportunity to share that with you the other day when I gave all my scrunchies away. Okay. So all I'm doing here is just stitching some fabric strips together, just pieces of fabric out of my cabbage. Okay, this is basically stitched together. I call that clothesline stitching. It saves thread. So before I started, I had 4 triangles of fabric. I'm not measuring, I'm literally just sewing. Okay, I don't know what I was saying. I got called away for a moment. Okay, but as you can see now, I have a basic rectangle. What I'm now going to do is fold it in half and just cut it. And I'm going to stitch this way so that I have a longer piece. All right, now the next thing I want to do is trim these seam allowances off. So let me go ahead and take care of that. I'm just going to clip, I don't want to cut through my stitching. So I might be a little less cavalier at that point. But they all need to be trimmed down. Okay, that looks pretty good, except for right here. I see a little bit of a, okay, so we'll fix it. Okay, all right. I'm just gonna kind of press these seams like so. All right, I'm back again. Sometimes you just have days. You just have days. Okay, so what I'm gonna do next, now that I've kind of finger pressed it down, I'm going to fold. I don't think I want this bit of selvage here. Just this type, the fabric is just too tight on that particular piece. And again, I've got selvage on this end, and just gonna trim that off. And I'm gonna fold this like so. No, I'm sorry, I'm doing it wrong. I'm gonna fold it like so. Kind of really press it down. And remember, this is just me using up pieces of fabric that I have. Okay. Well, gonna be one of those kind of days. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna do with my Cavalier scrunchie is I'm just gonna stitch all the way down this long edge. But first, I'm going to take a piece of elastic, and let's see, first of all, let's measure this. 23, about 24. If we pull this, let's just see. If we assume that's 23, that's about 24 inches, okay? So I'm gonna use about half the elastic, and I'm gonna stretch the elastic. So let's go stretched out to here. So the piece I'm going to cut is 9 inches with a little left over on the end, so I'll have something to attach it with. All right, so fold this to the inside, and now I'm just going to hold this piece of elastic onto this edge just like this and stitch. I might have to pin it because it's being a little wiggly, but that's okay. There we go. And I'll probably do a back stitch and then come forward. Now I don't want this to get caught in this, so I am going to push it off to the side over here, and finish stitching. Now what we have created is a pull-through, basically a pull-through assist. And that means all I have to do is either thread this with a bodkin or use my 2-inch safety pin. And I'll just pin this on like so. And you want to make sure it's going to stay. And then drop it down inside the tube that we created. Just like this. I'm going to take the safety pin. Well, actually, before I do that, there's a little bit of an excess right here. I'm just going to trim this down. I don't need all this excess fabric inside my scrunchie. And here's a little piece right here. And you know what I call those? It's going to sound weird, but I call those confidence builders. If you have something that's not perfect on the inside, like this right here, they're fine. They're especially on a cavalier scrunchie. Things don't have to be perfect in life, especially a hair scrunchie. And if you want to make something and you have just a little bit of fabric and you've thought to yourself, goodness me, I'd love to have a hair scrunchie that I made myself, go for it. If you're new to sewing, this is truly going to help you. Okay, so here's this piece of elastic, here's the pin. It's coming from the inside part of the tube, and I'm just going to gently fiddle with it down here on this end that it came from. I need to get this to go inside without, you know, overstretching or stressing any of these seams or the elastic. It might take a minute. It is sometimes a little fiddly. There we go. Now let's just see that right there. We're going to leave that there for a reason. Okay. Now I'm going to leave the elastic just like it is for a minute while I work on refolding my folded in edge the way I wanted it to be. And then we're going to push the elastic back through. We have the pin still attached like it is. We're going to leave this right here open. Don't let go of this or you'll have to do this all over again. Now I'm going to take this piece of elastic and I'm going to stitch it down on the inside. I'm not stitching across like so. I'm only stitching on the inside, which means I'll have to either do it by hand or hold the top portion of the tube away from my stitching. I'm going to go across it a couple times, backward and forward and backward and forward. That'll hold it in place. Trim the excess off. Okay. Now, I know that I have an open spot right here. So what I can do, I am going to, all right, there's this open-ended tube and the other side, and I'm going to push this in there. Like so. And I'm going to slip stitch all the way around, and I can do that because my elastic has been attached to both ends. So I'm going to take a needle and thread. Now the reason that I left, oh, this is a bent needle. The reason I left that other thing, that other opening alone, is because I wanted to point out, if we made a tube, just like I am right now with 0 elastic in it, we could do the waistband type of stitching, where we've got a completely closed off circle here, and with the side opening on the scrunchie, we could insert a piece of elastic. We could insert it on one side and go around, pin it with our pin right here, and go all the way through and come out on the other side, pull it through, stitch it, and then slip stitch that side opening. That's why I left that there, so you guys could see. All right, what I would like to do is, I need to trim this piece of thread off, and I want this on the inside. This does not need to be on the outside, so I'm going to fold that in a little bit better. And if you want to use some steam from your iron to get this, you know, if you need it to get this to stay on the inside, by all means, go for it. It won't hurt the elastic, and it won't hurt the fabric. Okay. Then I'm going to attempt to pop that down in here. And I am for sure looking for what I think would be the best look for this one. So if it looks better to have one side in and the other side be on the outside, that's what I'll do. So here we go. Here's a scrunchie that has basically free elastic. It's not been sewn down like this on the sewing machine. It's fluffy all the way around, and I like it. Today is the 3rd jumper dress in the jumper challenge. It's mine. I'm going to be doing this in a super long version, longer than this particular dress A version has been suggested to be made, and I don't want to do this weird hem treatment. Mine will be straight across. Okay, so we've got all the parts and all the pieces cut out. Let's take a look. They go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so this is the skirt. This is the other piece of the skirt. Now this one did not get cut as long as the other one, so I'm going to have to make adjustments on that. And then I have a front sleeve, a back sleeve, and 2, I have bodice front and bodice back. Alright, so let's jump in and see what our very first step is, which I'm going to guess is stay stitching. Alright, so on this pattern, as is true for most, if there is a sewing method that you are to use to complete a step, that particular method will be outlined in italics. So for example, where it says stay stitch right there, that is in an italic print. That's a method. Often you'll be able to find those in your sewing directions. So stay stitch is right here. It explains what a stay stitch is. in this case. Okay, the thing about a stay stitch that will be universal in all applications is it is meant to keep fabric that might not be stable because of the way it was cut stable. For example, this is on a this neckline, this right here, they're all at an angle, which puts the fabric in jeopardy of kind of degrading in the process of sewing and wearing. So the front two bodice pieces have to be stay stitched in a specific area. So let me get these over here. I have not marked anything. I just cut it out, left the pattern pieces on, and I'm going to mark it as we go. All right. So this is the back. I've got that done. This is where the stay stitching will be done. That's the top neck. And I don't think we're... Yes, we are also stay stitching across this bottom edge. So when you stay stitch, you're going to go from the front, or from the bottom lowest edge up to the top edge, or in the case of a neck, you're going to move in this direction. So from left to right to the center, and from right to left to the center, and then stop. And they very clearly indicate that in the directions right there and right there. Okay. I also want to mark which one is the front. I don't have to mark the back if I've got one marked. I'll know, so I just have to mark the front. This is the back. So I'm going to write the word front in a couple of places because the chances are I'm going to hit it with the iron and it'll just, you know, disappear on me. And I don't want to forget, I mentioned in a previous video that I'm going to load my bobbin with this Gutermann, and it is number 3400. I don't know if that's going to focus, maybe. 3400. So this is the bobbin, and I'll get this wound up real quick. And the needle thread will be a shade of green. It's kind of a light, I don't know, I want to call it everyday green. I don't know why. Okay, I am back. This is that shade I was talking about of green. It's just kind of a something in between this and a little bit lighter of this. Alright, so this is the neck edge. It's kind of weird looking on both, but I'm going to stay stitch to the center, and you can just fold it in half, and if it will help you, you can either finger press it or put a little pin there. So we're going to start from the outside and work our way in without stretching or pulling on the fabric. And you can leave that stay stitching in forever if you want to. I kind of think it's a good idea. So I'm stitching at a 2.5 straight stitch, needle down. Okay. Now the thing is, you either have to try to stitch with all of the fabric in one blob over here to get that other side done, or turn it over, which is what I prefer to do, like this. And don't cross over the first stitching. It'd be better to have a little gap like I have right there. Just a tiny little gap is fine. Okay, so we have one half done. The front has been stay stitched across the neck edge. So I'm going to go ahead now, and I think there's the middle. And you can eyeball that center. The main thing is you just don't want to distort the neck edge of your garment, or in this case, the neck edge or the lower edge. Okay guys, so I'm back. I've marked this with the word front, and now I'm going to stay stitch along the front bottom edge. I used a lot of starch. It gives your fabric a good weight to work with, and I like the idea. It feels a little bit like it's got some interfacing added to it, and all of the wrinkles are gone. Those built in at the factory wrinkles have kind of disappeared. All right, so front and back. This one I have marked with the word front. I don't have to mark the back because I know it's the back if it's not the front. Okay, so the next step we are going to do, and I want you to remember, it's kind of important, when you're doing this stay stitching on the lower edge, you're going from the low edge up to the top edge, and if you cannot remember what that is, it could be a little confusing. There are side seam pieces right here. So right here would be what I would consider to be the top edge, the high edge with this little short side, and this would be considered the low edge with this long edge. So you start down here and you stitch to the little short edge. And there is the diagram with the arrows that kind of show that you're going from this long edge right here up to this little short edge right there on both pieces 1 and 2. Okay, so the next step, we are going to take both of our pieces right sides together. So I'll lay this one this way and this one this way. Make sure that you've got the right piece, the right angle on this particular piece matched up, because it's kind of wonky. And we're going to stitch right here. This is considered the side seam right here. So we pin the bodice front to the bodice back at the right side seam. If you feel like you might get confused, the next thing to do is simply right side seam along one of these edges to help you remember. If you don't want to do that, you can always go back and reference the pattern and the instructions to figure it out. This right here is the right side seam, and it says that in the instructions. Okay, so let's bring George a little closer. And if you would like to make sure that you're keeping everything straight and all the edges look good, you can pin this, but you certainly do not have to do that. And if you have a serger and you want to use a serger to make this particular garment, this would be a seam that you would want to use your serger for. I am going to back it up to lock these stitches. Okay. Now for me, as I'm going along, I know I'm not dragging my serger out for this. And I also don't feel like doing a whole bunch of extra stitching with the thread that I have. So before I go any further, I am going to take my pinking shears and I'm going to trim this seam so that it's pinked. That way my edges won't, my fabric seams won't ravel. But that's what these tools are for. If you have them, I recommend, please go ahead and use them. Okay, so that has been stitched and pinked, and the next step is to stay stitch the upper edge of the skirt, front and back. So we have skirt 5 and skirt front and back 6. So let me show you what that all is. I'm going to pop this over onto the ironing board, and once again we're going to look at the skirt sections. These are sleeves. I don't need the sleeves in the way of what I'm doing, so I'm going to set these aside. We're not there yet. Okay, so piece number 6 is the side, the skirt side, and it says right there that it's skirt side, front, and side back for A, B, and C, right there. And for this particular piece, we were to cut 2. So let me check to see about the marking. And you'll notice I have extended, this is where, actually up here, way up here, is where view A was to be cut for the hem. And then this is for view B, and this was for view C, and I have made my own. So now this one is shorter than the original. I don't know how that happened, but sometimes things happen, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I've thought about getting some beautiful lacy wide lace trim, and I'm going to apply to the bottom because I really want a long dress. All of the pieces that I have left doing that instead of doing a traditional hem on this one. I had kind of considered it anyway. So, okay, so this needs to be stay stitched at the top edge, and I'm going to go ahead and take care of that, as well as the stay stitching along the top edge of the bigger piece number 5, which is the skirt front and back. And it is very long. So I'm going to take care of these before they take care of me, and I'll be right back. Before I forget to tell you, the stay stitching on the piece, the side piece, you begin at the top of this edge and you work your way down to this lower edge right here. And this one I'll be stitching right side up because I will be starting from the top edge and working my way down to the lower edge. all of the pieces that I have left to stay stitch. Don't take this out. Use it as an outtake. So these will go on the ironing board for me to press. Now I'm going to work on the big piece, number 5. I'm trying not to stab myself. I have so many times done that. But before I take this off of the pattern piece, I do need to look for markings aside from, yeah. Now, here's the thing that I needed to point out anew. So as maybe you can see right here, this line is just a straight curvy line. That would be the hem for view A, which is shorter. Right here you can see it's shorter than view B or view C. However, it's too short for me in this particular application. Now view B has this right here, as does view C. I, however, chose to cut it at just a curvy angle right along there. I did not bring it to a point. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead, remove the pins, get it stay stitched and pressed. Then when we come back, we're going to do the next step, which is to stitch piece 5 to piece 6. And then right after we do that, we're going to pin the right side seam of the skirt front and back to the back. So all of piece number 5 and 6, both of those will be stitched together. So we will have a piece number 5 and a piece number 6.
All right, guys.
A piece number 6. I have the pieces pressed and the stay stitching completed. This is basically what we want right here. So what I need to do is find the front piece. This is a side section. But they all have to go right sides together and the notches must match. So these two pieces have been stitched together, 6 and 5 and 5 and 6. If you recall, this is from a massive king size sheet set that I got for under $30. what I plan to do is stitch up the side that I had to cut, and I actually didn't cut it, I tore it. It is the long side, so let's see if I can find that torn edge. Yep. All the way down one long side right there. It did leave some fabric shred in its wake. Right here you can see there's just a lot of it. But my plan is to finish this raw edge with kind of a wide zigzag and then go back and create a hem that matches the original hem, like so. Okay, so we're going to pretend like this is the actual purchase tablecloth that I was using to measure for this. So the overhang was about here on my tablecloth, and I really wanted it to be a little bit deeper, right? So what I did is, like, this is captain's chair, the two sides and the two sides. So I took my tablecloth that I purchased a long time ago and I folded it in half like this. Then I took this fabric, and here it is, all of this fabric, and I folded it in half. And I laid it on the table with the fold toward me, and then I took my tablecloth, and I laid it on top of my fabric. I knew that I wanted more over here. This matched up and this matched up. I didn't have to cut on either of these two ends. It was just the proper length. I didn't need to worry about that. But this had to be cut. So I measured off as much as I wanted. I knew I wanted it to be about 12 inches. So let's just pretend. And then I just made two cuts like this, literally, right down here on this end. I cut into the fabric like that. And then I tore like so. I do want this to be finished off with a zigzag since it is shredding so much. So I'm just going to trim this. Probably as I go, I'll be doing a lot of trimming too, which will help fill up my little thread basket over here. I do have to trade out my thread. Okay, I think in order to save myself, in case I don't have enough just pure white, I am going to run a zigzag with this pale blue. I don't think it'll show, but it's going to be down the long edge of a draped over. There's about this much. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. About a 12-inch drop off the edge of the table. Nobody will ever see it, so that's what I'm going to do. So we'll go ahead and run up a bobbin. I need to save this for the dress that I'm going to be making, I think. The top part of that dress. Oh, and FYI, I will be also using my bobbin thread when I do the straight stitch along that folded edge. Okay. I'm in high protective mode of my white thread right now. Okay. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is the zigzag stitch. And you could actually do this on a serger. If I could get my serger up off the floor and put it up here, I might use it. I'd probably have to rethread with light colored thread, which I don't think I have at the moment. When we moved into this house, I sold a whole bunch of my serger thread, but it was all magenta and black, I think. So anyway, all right, so let's see. I'm gonna all right, zigzag portion has been completed. Now the next step, I'll put my machine back in a straight stitch so I don't forget, and follow this all the way back to the beginning, which is right here. I have some really soft cotton. This is 100% Gutermann. I might try that on the bobbin. Entirety of this tablecloth, because I'm going to tell you something. I honestly believe if I had not stopped in between all of these steps, this would be maybe a 30-minute, maybe an hour tablecloth. I hope that if you need a tablecloth or two for family gatherings over the holidays, you'll think about the idea of using a sheet set. And when I get back to this, we're going to figure out what type of top I'm going to use to attach to this weirdly wonderful skirt. And in the meantime, if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider doing so. Just click the little subscribe button and the bell. The bell will notify you if I have a new video. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.